what was fundamentally different about Norbert and Odile?
That's a real good question. Okay, so Norbert actually never made landfall. It basically, wandered off of the west coast of Baja and up off the coast of basically San Diego. But what it did was it was more of an assist in the sense that it helped induce a Gulf surge of moisture. And that's where we had moisture values. We used this idea of precipitable water. If you could condense out all the water in a column of air above you, then you'd get about 2 inches of water. So that's the
what it was at that time.
We were getting about 2 inches out of Tucson, which I believe was the record for September at that point in time. So,
in Tucson?
Tucson, okay. Yeah. And when we have to do this with balloons, the weather balloon network. That was in place. And we also, this was another little thing that was at play, was there was remnants of Tropical Storm Dolly, which had made landfall in Texas, Mexico area, and had moved up out of the southeast towards us. So we had a convergence of two moisture sources. We had a super deep layer of as wet atmosphere as you normally get here, if not record. And that in its own right created a super unstable atmosphere and some very, very wet rainers. Bob Maddox on his Mad Weather blog had some really cool posts about noting that when we had these rain events in Phoenix and Tucson, they were accompanied by very, very little lightning. And that's a real classic characteristic of having tropical warm cloud type rain processes. You don't have enough ice in the clouds, or the convection isn't deep enough to cause electrification in the clouds. So those types of situations, and that type of situation in particular, was just able to wring out epic amounts of water and rainfall rates over an extended period of time, multiple hours over first Phoenix.
Yeah, and then it happened to us later in the day. I think it all stopped in Phoenix around early morning.
It was right around rush hour, and it was like from 2 to 8 a.m.
Yeah, exactly.
And they had a little what we call like mesoscale vortice, a little bit of a swirl in the atmosphere, just a tiny little bit of dynamics to set off the powder keg of water and instability in the atmosphere and super efficiently rain it out. I mean, there were some reports in Phoenix metro area of 1 day totals exceeding 6 inches. These are backyard rain gauges of folks. And, parts of Phoenix are old converted farmlands. They're flat. So water it just basically pools up and flows towards the lowest spot. So they had some very crazy underpass flooding in all sorts of situations here. The outflows from those storms pushed southeast. You think about that,
right.
And we started raining on the outflows of those storms
So we got an assist.
We got an assist. Yeah, it was the Norbert assist with the Gulf surge, a Dolly sort of alley-oop, and then an outflow
behind the back pass.
Yep, exactly. It was some definitely professional level playing going on with the atmosphere there. So Odile actually was a remnant circulation as it was moving towards Tucson.
It was still circulating.
Still circulating. It had a closed circulation. It was very weak. The pressures had come up quite a bit, so it wasn't tropical. The winds had weakened quite a bit, but you could certainly still see the closed circulation like you'd see in an eye, the winds would be much stronger. So this is what we call remnant circulation. That remnant circulation had a ton of precip with it, and that circulation itself will drive the dynamics you need for the precipitation. So when you have all those things together, it can produce really high rainfall rates in a kind of a moving blob going forward. And so that was the expectation, is that having those pieces come together over Tucson was going to drive all that rain. But it fell apart much quicker than I think anyone anticipated. And there's some indication that the models had, when it was in the northern Gulf and over northern Mexico, had thought it was way stronger than it was. We're over-initializing or thinking it was much stronger. And so as they kept, forecasting 6, 8, 12 hours ahead, they brought this behemoth rainmaker over us, but in reality, since we really couldn't see it, it was much weaker, and so it didn't have the oomph to be able to do it.